And welcome back to the second part of Ask Eddie and Ann and Charlotte. Uh, because I see her right there. So she's all present and accounted for. It's funny, Ann, when we started doing this, we did not anticipate that we would be doing 2 installments a month.
Yes.
But we've gotten so many great questions from people that we have to just break it into installments because it's a little too unwieldy otherwise. I can't believe last time we went almost 90 minutes.
I know. Yeah, I was shocked.
And my heart goes out to those people who stick till the very end. It's like, okay. But that's pretty great. And, I also noticed that there was, I got a couple of emails because everybody, I'm sure, has figured out by now that we don't actually do these live.
Yeah.
That we talk and we answer the questions, and then the recorded version goes up online. But we announce it, online.
Yeah.
And then and we invite people to submit questions for the next version.
That's for the next version.
And then because I always see a wave of questions coming into my inbox when we do that. And today, and we're not going to get to this, but somebody said, "Why haven't you answered my questions?" And I had absolutely no recollection of this person. But we'll get to it. Don't worry. We will get to it. Somebody had submitted a couple of questions that somehow slipped through the cracks. I'm not exactly sure why. But we'll get to it.
And when that happens, if people email us, then I can make sure that they get into the next one.
Okay, very good, very good. But tonight we want to start off with something great and a little different. So let the people know what's going on.
Oh, okay.
That's you. That's you. That's your
cue.
cue.
You were doing it.
No, that's your cue. I'll chime in, but I really needed a sip of this martini right now.
Okay. So this is Jay and Connie Cron. And so they basically want to do, you'll probably say this better, but matching funds kind of for the month.
Yes. Jay and Connie are true blue loyal supporters of the Film Noir Foundation. They're from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I think I originally met them, they'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I met them originally at the TCM Classic Film Festival because they've gone to every single one of them. And I describe them as sort of like the noir version of Deadheads because they follow the festivals around the country. So I've seen Jay and Connie, they come to San Francisco. I know they've been to Detroit. They actually hosted me at their home in Ann Arbor when we did the Detroit Festival. They've been to Boston. They've been to Washington. They've been to Chicago. They're just absolutely great people. Yes, and they said that this time, because we're doing this and these are special circumstances, they said that if like a donation drive thing, that folks who are watching this during the month of January, if you donate to the Film Noir Foundation, and we take in from this $1,000 that Jay and Connie will match that. So if we get donations totaling $1,000, Jay and Connie will write their own $1,000 check to the foundation. Let me point out that this will not be the first time that Jay and Connie have done this. But I find that was a lovely gesture, and I am very, very grateful, and very much looking forward to when we're back to normal so that I can see Jay and Connie again, because they're good folks, and I miss them. So all you people who are on the fence and thinking about donating, go ahead and donate, because if all of those add up to $1,000, then we're good. Jay and Connie are going to match that.
Yeah, and you can do that on our website, which is filmnoirfoundation.org. And also, if you donate $20 or more and sign up on our email list, you get North City E-Magazine, because that goes to everybody who makes a $20 or more donation and signs up on our email subscriber list.
Right.
So we can't send the magazine to you if you don't give us your email address.
Yes, and this is to stipulate, it's this month.
Yes.
They're asking for people who donate this month. So I'm going to assume if you're watching this that you are on the internet, so you know how to make a donation via the internet. If you are one of those fabulous Luddites that does not want to do that and you'd rather write a check, you can do that as well. If you go, but you have to go to the website to see where to send the check and all that. But if the check is dated in January, I'm going to consider that as part of the donation. So.
Yeah, and it's on the contribution page. Is the address is right there.
Correct.
And
all right.
Yeah.
Very good. So thanks, Jay and Connie. It is greatly appreciated. And before I forget and we get too deep into this, I also want to thank Laura and Doug because they sent me a little Christmas package, which is the DVD of No Name on the Bullet, which you have been, championing. Why am I even trying to say that word? I can never say it. Championing. Which you've been lobbying for me to watch.
Yes.
So now I have it and I will watch it. So next time we talk, Ann, I'm going to tell you what I think about No Name on the Bullet.
I'm really excited.
Okay,
very, very excited.
You already won me over on, you got me to watch Better Call Saul, which I'm absolutely loving.
Yes.
It's like I'm not getting any sleep because it's just like one more episode. And it's like one more episode after that, So, okay, so I'm sure I'll enjoy No Name on the Bullet as well.
Yeah, 1 year for Father's Day, I gave my dad Breaking Bad, the complete series, because he really liked his past dark stuff. So about like a week later, I called him and like, how are you doing? He said, oh, your mother's really mad at me and it's your fault. And I said, well, why is that, Dad? And he's like, because I've been up till like 3 a.m. watching Breaking Bad every night.
That's great. I love that we can still stay up in the dead of night watching movies and stuff, because that's the way I saw a lot of these films the first time. It wasn't in a video recorder or on a streaming or anything. It was like on TV, because you had to stay up late to watch all that good stuff. So
no, I remember getting my first VCR and how exciting it was to be able to record things.
Yep.
And it was like so amazing. And it's so weird to think how much technology has changed.
On those massive decks.
Yeah.
The massive like Betamax decks and stuff. I remember that. And each, the tapes were like this big.
Yeah, for Beta.
Yeah. And ridiculous. I remember one was about the history of rock and roll that I recorded on my brother-in-law's machine. And it was this old like broadcast. This was pre cable TV. It was like broadcast TV. And it ended with like punk rock and all this stuff. And it was like Elvis Costello doing Pump It Up. And then Springsteen was the last thing in concert doing Rosalita. And this was like, rock and roll is in good hands. And this was like 1978 or something, that was pretty classic. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's answer some
trip
questions.
Down memory lane. Okay, yeah. And this is from Bill Arney, the voice of Noir City.
Who I haven't seen in ages. I miss Bill so much.
I know.
But that's funny that Bill's asking a question. It's like, I appreciate that, Bill. You could just call me on the phone, but yes, Bill Arney is the voice of the Noir City Film Festival in San Francisco. He's our announcer because he has this fantastic voice, as those of you who have attended know. So what's Bill's question?
How do I find out whether or not a particular movie is in the public domain? I suspect there's no way, but you never know what may have developed recently on anything.
Well, there's a very good reason Bill is asking that question. It's because he hosts a TV show in Marin County called Cheese Theater, where he shows a lot of public domain movies.
Yeah.
and he's the host. You know, it's like what I do on Noir Alley, he does on Cheese Theater. But I think I startled Bill a couple of times because he showed something, and I like said, Bill, you know, that's not actually a public domain movie. So obviously he's asking, how do you know? It has always been very difficult to prove that something is in the public domain because it's like it's nobody announces that unless it's like something big, like nice. Because like just this month.
God damn it, Charlotte. Sorry.
Oh my goodness. I've never seen you. What, did she break something?
No, she just attacked her sister who was minding her own business. Sorry.
Well, that's, you know, it's a Noir family. You know?
Yeah, good twin, evil twin.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, The Great Gatsby is now in the public domain, the novel.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it just happens if the cycle, the copyright cycle ends and no one reestablishes the copyright, then something can go into the public domain. Now, why the Fitzgerald estate has not renewed a copyright or something on Gatsby, I'm not exactly sure, but this is something that that happens. You know, Christmas Holiday, the great Robert Siodmak film.
Yeah.
You know, Universal didn't want to mess with that when the copyright, it fell out of copyright and they let it revert to the Somerset Maugham estate.
Yeah.
Because he wrote the story upon which the movie is based. So this is an issue that we deal with a lot. There are sites online that you can go to that will list movies and books in the public domain. But they're never complete. And with the Film Noir Foundation, what we do is we do a copyright search. So we pay experts to trace the paper trail to determine, you know, who actually has the rights to this film, what are the underlying rights to the film, and you know, depending on what you want to do with it. I mean, it's America, man. It's litigious. So, I mean, rights apply to music as well as the literary source material and everything. So, if there is diegetic music used in the movie and the movie has fallen out of copyright, then you also have to think about clearing the rights on just the music, right? So it's complicated. So the answer, Bill, is, you know, a copyright search isn't astronomically expensive, but it rather than finding a complete list, it's sometimes easier if there's a movie that you're interested in to do the copyright search just for that title, because it will be far more complete and authoritative than just counting on what you find on the internet. As we all know, don't trust what you find on the internet.
Unfortunately so. So this is from Chuck. We all love Raymond Chandler. He's one of those writers whose words sing in our heads as we read him. Could you read one of your favorite paragraphs for us? In case you're curious, here's mine from Red Wind. There was a desert wind blowing that night. It was one of those hot, dry Santa Anas that come down through the mountain passes and curl your hair and make your nerves jump and your skin itch. On nights like that, every booze party ends in a fight. Meek little wives feel the edge of the carving knife and study the husband's necks. Anything can happen. You can even get a full glass of beer at a cocktail lounge. P.S. Ann, we love you. We love your cats.
Very good. Interesting that I don't know if this was intentional on your part, but putting these two questions back to back is interesting because you know what? I'm not going to read my favorite Raymond Chandler passage because I probably don't have the rights to do that. And it sounds ridiculous, but I did an audio commentary for the Brasher Doubloon, the 20th Century Fox adaptation of The High Window, Raymond Chandler's The High Window. And as part of that audio commentary, I did it with Conrad Janis. If you remember the actor Conrad Janis, who was extremely young when he made that film, he's in it. He plays, you know, a principal character in the movie, and he did the audio commentary with me, and he read selected passages from Chandler because he loved this stuff so much. He said, "Ooh, here's the scene where Marlowe drives up to the house in Bunker Hill. Let me read the Chandler excerpt from that." And he did this a few times. That audio commentary never got released. And I have a sneaking suspicion it was because of unauthorized use of Chandler's prose on the track. I mean, it's crazy, but it makes me very, very gun shy, you know. But what I will do for Chuck is I will say that probably the passage that always stuck with me, I don't love it as much now as I did then, was from The Little Sister, where Marlowe is grousing about how LA used to be a great city. And he goes, it was the, you know, they used to call it the, you know, the Athens of the West or something. But it wasn't that, but it wasn't a neon lighted slum either. And now we have, you know, and he goes through this whole really cranky litany of stuff about why LA stinks, at the same time that it's like a homage to the whole city, you know. So, you know, you're not human tonight, Marlowe. I think that's how the passage ended. Forget it. You're not human tonight, Marlowe. So, eminently quotable. You can pick up literally any Chandler book and just start reading it, and it's all quotable, fabulous prose.
Yeah, interesting you pick that passage because the radio show, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, one of the episodes starts out with that quote, and it's I think that was Gerald. I think it was Gerald.
Is that Gerald Moore? Yeah.
Yeah, and his voice is beautiful, and the way he reads it was much better than I did.
There you go. Oh, so you mean the show started with there was a hot scene?
One of the episodes starts. That's how the episode starts out, was with. He quoted that from the story, and then the story went from there.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to my friends, the band no longer exists, but the Late Night Callers, who played the first Noir City nightclub. They have a song of theirs. I think it's called, oh my God. It's a one-word title. It starts with a C, like Calabasas or something like that.
Yeah.
That starts with that passage. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a spoken word thing, and it begins the song, and it's really, really evocative. Yeah. So you look for that online. If people haven't heard the Late Night Callers, they should look them up online. They're fabulous.
That was a good party, too.
That was fun.
Yeah. Mark Wolf has two questions. Whom do you consider the most underrated actor and actress of the classic noir era? For what it's worth, I never really felt Glenn Ford got his due. So, do you want to weigh in on who you think is underrated?
I appreciate Glenn Ford. He is not a favorite actor of mine, but I get him. I get Glenn Ford. I like him in a lot of things. I'm going to say Dennis O'Keefe is my underrated guy, because, you know, he, except for T-Men and Raw Deal, which honestly have only become touchstones of noir in like the last 10 or 15 years. He didn't make a lot of movies that were that well known in the genre, but I just think he's terrific, because the more you see of him, the more I appreciate how he used his charm. He's very, very charming, witty actor, but half the time he's using that charm in a very suspicious way.
Yeah.
Like in Woman on the Run,
yeah.
You know, where you kind of really like him at first, and then he starts to get a little obnoxious, and then well, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but he did that a few times. You know, in T-Men, he was clearly the hero, but in Raw Deal, I mean, that's a classic noir protagonist. He's a crook
Yeah.
who is the good guy
Yeah.
in the movie, you know, and he really pulls that off, and he's really good in Walk a Crooked Mile, and
Yeah.
this movie Cover Up. He's really good. He's great in Abandoned. He's great in Woman on the Run. I really like Dennis O'Keefe.
And he's also in The Leopard Man, the Val Lewton film.
Oh, yeah.
That's based on a Woolrich story.
And, and when he's in non-noir stuff where he's just playing a nice guy, he's good. He's really, he's very entertaining, and he's very light on his feet. And I don't mean that as this is a dancer. I mean, that's he has a really nice quality, a very effervescent quality when he's doing comedy and stuff. He's you know, he's like a guy from the 40s, you know, he really is. And I like him.
Yeah, and just that kind of charm and wit, it's very attractive. He's a very attractive man. So the second question for Mark is, I have been in a bitter argument for a decade now. Believe it or not, we decided that your opinion would settle the matter once and for all. No pressure. I have been making some, in my honest opinion, valid points as to why, even though the film is considered an adventure, it does have many qualities that qualify it qualified as a noir. Use of fog, a deranged captain, and the dark side of the human mind. The film I am talking about is The Sea Wolf. P.S. A steak dinner is riding on your decision. Noir or not.
The Sea Wolf?
Yeah.
What's this fella's name? Mark? Is this Mark?
Mark Wolf.
Mark's buying somebody a steak dinner, I guess, or making it for him or something, because I can't go there. I can't see a Jack London. I mean, yeah, there are, well, you know, this is a really interesting question because it's not noir. The Sea Wolf is not noir. I mean, because tales about delusional fascist sea captains, yeah, they're about darkness and the self-destructiveness of people, and but noir hasn't cornered the market on that. I mean, that's just drama, you know.
Yeah.
I would argue then, is Mutiny on the Bounty a noir? I mean, why? Is Moby Dick a noir? I don't think so. And nor do I think that The Sea Wolf is a noir. You know, it's a dark seafaring adventure. Yeah. But by and large, I don't really think of you know, movies set on boats as being particularly noirish. I get what he's saying, that there are noir elements to it, but if what Mark is asking is if I would include that on a list of noir films, I'm saying no. I mean, I'm not going to show that on Noir Alley. But you know, if Mark wants to continue to argue he doesn't owe the steak dinner because Eddie said, sure, there are noirish elements, fine. Otherwise, suck it up, pay off the bet, you know, and don't do a William Bendix. Don't pour ketchup all over the steak. You know, don't do that. But I appreciate the question, and I appreciate your thinking that I am somehow the expert that's going to settle all this. You know, I always joke that this is how I grew up in my house with my dad, settling bets on the telephone late at night. You know, now, thank God, people email me. But my dad, the phone would just ring at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and it'd be guys like, hey, Ed, we're in a bar down here downtown, and you know, I say apostoli knocked out Steele in the, you know, this round and blah, blah, blah. And I got a lot riding on it, you know. And my dad would go, yeah, fourth round. Yeah, great. Too bad. Bye. And hang up the phone. You know, he was the official bet settler in San Francisco, at least when it came to boxing.
Yeah. Spencer asks, what is considered the first film noir? There's a can of worms.
I know this is impossible to say, but it's fun debating it and arguing about it and all that stuff. You know, you're only doing that. You're only saying this as a way of like a marker for like start watching here and then you can stop watching there, you know. But if you're a real noir fanatic, you don't believe in those boundaries because you're always looking for stuff that predates, you know, 1940, 41 in America. You know, I mean, what are you going to say? You know, I mean, I will say this, that I was talking to Jackie Stewart today, my colleague at TCM, because we're going to present a couple of films. We're going to do a crossover on TCM where I'm going to go on Silent Sunday nights and we're going to show some examples of early noir from the silent era, right? And there's a lot of stuff that we can draw from, but is anybody really saying that was the start of film noir? No, it's not. Because none of those films triggered a movement, which is what we're talking about when we talk about film noir, which is why, you know, The Maltese Falcon or Stranger on the Third Floor or This Gun for Hire or I Wake Up Screaming. In the United States, those are the early noir films. But then when you really start looking at it, there's pre-code movies, OK America and, you know, Afraid to Talk, you know, those are pre-code noir, 2 seconds, a pre-code noir. And then silent noir, you know, Docks of New York is kind of a noir film, and A Cottage on Dartmoor is a noir film. Asphalt, Joe May's Asphalt is absolutely a noir film. Dietrich's the Woman Men Yearn For is before The Blue Angel, which you could argue is a film noir. So the distinction here is there are examples of films that you can call film noir if you want to, but they didn't trigger a movement, right? The movement happened in the early 1940s. So that's how I'm answering that.
That's a good answer. And this is from Nadia. Where were the opening scenes of Woman on the Run filmed? We know the amusement park in the final scenes was LA, but how much was actually filmed in San Francisco?
Interestingly, it was everything between the first and the last scene. The first scene in the film where the shooting takes place is actually Bunker Hill in Los Angeles. And the last scenes are the amusement park, you know, the Pacific Ocean Park. That's where the end of that film was shot. It's not Playland at the Beach, but everything in between was actually shot in San Francisco.
Yeah, and actually, so the Flickr Alley release of our restoration of the film has a special feature which goes through locations, and I cannot remember the name of the site, the website.
Oh, it's called Reel SF, REEL capital SF, created and managed by a wonderful guy named Brian Hollins. And Brian is fantastic, and he has just dedicated himself to tracking down all the locations from every movie shot in San Francisco and showing the then and now comparisons of all these things. So yeah, if you're into that and you know you love Vertigo and Woman on the Run and you know all these great movies, Thieves Highway, that were shot in San Francisco, that website will show you exactly where everything took place. Sudden Fear, you know, The Sniper, The Lineup.
Yes, one of the guys one of the guys that I work with at my day job lives in North Beach, and got really excited that there was The Sniper had like shots of like I think actually where he lived. So he asked me, well, do you have a copy of it? And I was like, sure, you can borrow it and you can watch it. It was just really cool.
Yeah, and you know that the spot where Marie Windsor gets killed in that movie.
Yeah.
That was one of the legendary gay nightclubs in San Francisco at the time.
Really?
At the time they made that movie, that's exactly what that was. Yeah, and I think it was called the Black Cat, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, that's where they shot all those scenes where she plays the, in the piano bar and all that stuff. Yeah, that was that's a kind of a famous San Francisco locale.
Okay, and these are two questions from Jim. What is Eddie's favorite noir car? Roughly pronounced Noir car. If I may be allowed to name my own, it is the car that Dick Powell and Marlowe drives to make the jewel drop off in Murder My Sweet. So what is your favorite?
Wow, that's kind of out of left field, but I'm going to say, because you said Dick Powell, what's this gentleman's name that's asking this question? Jim. Okay, Jim, because you said Dick Powell, thanks for the nudge, because I'm going to say it's the car from Cry Danger. And I'm saying that because I know the backstory of it. Okay. So the deal with that, and that's the car that Gene Porter drives in Cry Danger, and it ends up getting shot up at the end of the film, and they didn't have a car picked out for that. And when Gene Porter came to the set at that trailer park, on Bunker Hill, she was driving that car. It was her car. That was a gift to her from her husband, Edward Dmytryk, right? The filmmaker, had given her that car. And Robert Parrish, the director, saw her drive up in the car and said, that's the one, right? We're keeping that. We're going to use that. And of course, the problem that created was they had to go out and find another one, because they destroyed it at the end of the film, and it wasn't like, I guess we can't just destroy it. How's Eddie doing? Oh yeah, that's right. He's in prison because he's one of the Hollywood 10. So we better not destroy his car because he's not making any real money right now. So that I'm going to say that's my favorite noir car.
Okay, great answer. I am interested in researching a particular film released by 20th Century Fox in the 40s. I've dug around in the Herrick Library at AMPAS, but would like to know where Fox archives repose and or how one may gain access to them.
Good luck. I have been in that Fox library. It was miraculous. The library this gentleman is talking about was an actual library based on the 20th Century Fox lot, where anybody working on a picture, whether they were a writer or a costume designer or a property person, could go to do research for their films. They didn't have to leave the lot. It was kind of extraordinary. And I've actually done picture research and stuff in that library because I knew a woman, Allison Pinsler, who worked there, and she gave me access to do research for a film project I was doing. That's all owned by Disney now. Disney owns it all, and what they're going to do with it, I have absolutely no idea. I don't know if they've preserved it or if they've just destroyed it all. I'm just not sure. But you know, a lot of these, and that's Fox. I know that like Universal and Paramount aren't gone. Warner Brothers, the library is intact. Dina Merrill owned the RKO library. You know, and I'm pretty sure that Sony has kept the Columbia Pictures library intact. But at this point, I cannot say for sure what happened with Fox. I just know that, you know, it's a very recent acquisition that Disney owned it, and it's entirely up to them what happens to it and whether anybody will ever have access to it again.
This question is from Steve Hoffman. Is Eddie familiar with the 2009 Italian film, The Double Hour, which had a very limited U.S. release? If he can comment on it without spoiling it, I'd love to hear his comments.
I have seen it, and it's great. I like that movie a lot. I don't have any idea how to talk about it without spoiling it, because the trick of that movie is everything.
Yeah.
Because you think you're watching one story and it turns out to be something entirely different. But I like it. I remember seeing it when it came out in that limited release, and I enjoyed it very much. Someplace I have something I wrote about it, because I remember writing about it at the time. It may have been one of the first things I ever posted on social media. I can remember picking a photograph from the film to accompany the post. So I have written briefly about that movie, but I like it, and I encourage people to watch it. It's a really good movie.
And this is from Jane, from Stockholm, Sweden. Why is it so difficult to find Chicago Deadline? All the other noirs with Alan Ladd have been released in DVD or Blu-ray, but this one has only been released on DVD in Italy with poor picture quality.
First off, that's great. From Stockholm, Sweden. I love that. Yeah, the reach of the Film Noir Foundation. That's a beautiful thing. Okay, Chicago Deadline is a difficult film because it falls in this weird period. It's a Paramount movie, but most of those Alan Ladd pictures are now owned by Universal, because of course Alan Ladd was a Paramount actor, and the deal that was made by MCA, the corporate overlord of Universal, when they bought the Paramount library, was they were buying everything that was in production on, I believe the date was August 15th or 16th of 1948. And if the movie was in production at that point, it became the property of Universal. But movies that were Paramount movies that hadn't yet started production on August 15th, 1948, would remain the property of Paramount. That's my understanding of the situation. There are exceptions. Sorry, Wrong Number remains a Paramount film. And there are a couple of other, but anyway, the point of all this is it got very confusing as to who owned what. So all these films that from mid 1948 to mid 1949 are in this weird gray area where even those studios aren't entirely sure who owns the films. So in this case, possession becomes 9/10 of the law. And so you see a number of these movies are now with Universal. Like, for instance, Alias Nick Beale, a movie that I really love, is a Paramount movie. It came out in 1949, but that's now controlled by Universal. But Chicago Deadline is not. And as far as I know, there is no print except one, decent 35 millimeter print at the UCLA Film and Television Archive. I've shown it twice. And then I stopped showing it because it was the only one, and we're going to screw it up if we keep showing it, right? We're going to degrade it even more. But it's a good film. That's a very interesting film. It's like it's a newspaper noir version of Laura. Is kind of what it is, about a newspaper man who obsesses over the death of this anonymous woman who it haunts him. There's a lot of good female characters in it too.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the reason. And I have to say, there are a lot of other Alan Ladd movies that have slipped between the cracks. I mean, you can't really see The Great Gatsby, his Great Gatsby. And you know that the other picture he made with Veronica Lake, Saigon, you really can't see that, you know. So I would argue that there are numerous Alan Ladd pictures that have gone missing, and most of them are from that weird window of time that had everything to do with the corporate sell-off of the library.
Okay, so this next question is from Jeremy Lassen, who was my first Noir City friend, by the way. So
I know Jeremy, yeah.
Do you consider The Little Foxes and its prequel, Another Part of the Forest, to be noir? Themes suggest noirsness, even though they were considered A-list productions, and Dan Duray's presence in both movies seemed like it should slide them towards noir country. Does the director, William Weiler, have any other noir credits, high points you would recommend? Why would we go with that? It's a long question. So I guess because it's multiple questions, really.
Okay.
So do you consider Little Foxes, Another Part of the Forest, to be noir? And does William Weiler have any other noir credits, high points?
Okay. I'm going to say that no, I don't. I don't consider The Little Foxes or Another Part of the Forest to be noir. I know that we noir heads love the presence of Dan Duryea, and it's like, it's got to be noir if Dan Duryea's in it, right? But I don't really. It's, you know, that's just dark domestic drama. That to me, that's what that is, you know. And you do find a lot of the same themes in like regular drama and noir, but you know, it's not. It's the same thing applies that I said about The Seawolf. That's predominantly something else. And even though you can argue that, oh, I see strains of noir in this, I don't think you can legitimately say that's a noir film. As for Weiler, now having said that, I'm the guy who, you know, I've shown The Letter, you know, which is a great William Wyler film, that I do kind of consider that to be noir. You know, the way I look at it, if the diseased family has dinner parties and they sit around bitching about each other and plotting to stab each other in the back, but they really don't, they just talk about it, then that's like a stage play drama. If the wife rolls out and blasts the hell out of somebody in the first scene, like The Letter, that's noir, right? She, you know, it sounds like I'm joking, but I'm really not. I mean, that's sort of the way I distinguish this. And of course, Weiler had, you know, he is the top of the Hollywood A-list, right? So a lot of people, he didn't really do genre pictures. And most noir movies are, you know, the crime genre. But he did do the very prestigious Detective Story, which was a great stage play, and he did that adaptation. He did The Desperate Hours, which is, you know, home invasion noir. You know, so I do easily see those fitting in the noir scheme of things. So it wasn't like Weiler totally steered clear of it, but I get this distinction. Like, it's also Lillian Hellman is the author of, you know, The Little Foxes and all, and I'm going to open a can of worms, but, you know, I know a lot of writers, literary writers, who love their noir, love their noir, but they don't want you to call them noir writers, right? Because there's just some kind of stigma attached, and it's like, oh, well, you know, I don't write that. I mean, I love it, but you can't call my books that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Lillian Hellman would feel the same way about the little foxes, even though, of course, she's famously associated with Dashiell Hammett. And, you know, that association alone does not render her work noir.
Yeah. And not all his work was noir either.
No. I mean, he definitely had a colossal influence on the development of noir. But if you've read like those later short stories, that book, The Hunter and Other Stories, just shows how drastically Hammett wanted to break out of the hard-boiled detective fiction genre and just write straight literary fiction. And nobody bought those stories.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, man, where's the dead body, and where are the clues and all that? And he, man, am I glad they published that book, because that's some of the best Hammett stuff I've read is his non-crime fiction work. Anyway, that's my answer.
Okay. This is from Rachel. Regarding the photo of Bogart's character, Vincent Perry in Dark Passage, is the photo of Perry pre-plastic surgery the one that appears in newspapers, an actual photo of Bogart that was altered, or a photo of another man that resembled Bogart?
Wow.
That's a great question.
That's a great question. And I don't know the answer, so I'm going to have to research that, because I don't know. I'm going to suspect, just, this is a guess. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Rachel, this is just a guess, but I'm going to say it's another another person that looks like Bogart, because they didn't have Photoshop back in 1947. So I doubt they would have bothered to, make somebody up to, or make Bogart up to look different just for that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna assume that Warner Brothers had a library and photos of innumerable actors, right? Maybe they just said, called up an agent and said, you got any clients that look kind of like Bogart? And they got the guy a day's work.
Yeah.
Come in and we'll photograph him. Maybe it was Ned Young. Maybe it was Nedrick Young, the writer, who looked a lot like Bogart, and that, now I'm really intrigued, and I have to go and actually find this frame, and which I can't do. I don't do that screen capture thing. So I'm telling, if there's somebody watching who can actually do that and capture the newspaper photo and send it to me, then I can start my research. I can find out the answer to that, I think.
Yeah. Or it could be a stand-in, was what I was thinking.
Good call. Could very well be Bogart's double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that. Okay, and this is from Robert. I'm wondering about I Wouldn't Be in Your Shoes. For decades, it was unavailable, and we heard only that there was one print in the world. Now I see that there's a DVD available on eBay. On an earlier Ask Eddie, Mueller said a Cornell Woolrich title that was in the process of becoming available after a long absence. Was it I Wouldn't Be in Your Shoes? What does Eddie think of this film? I'd also like Anne to know that she is cute and appealing. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Wow. That was very, very subtle. The guy asks a long question and then slips in a little mash note at the very end. That was good. That was good. Well, you are cute and appealing, Anne, and extremely bright on top of it all. I am not at liberty to say whether that was the film I was talking about, which I suppose is answer enough. So I like the film. I don't think it's as good as The Guilty, which is the Cornell Woolrich film, the lost Woolrich film that the Film Noir Foundation restored. I'm happy to say the Film Noir Foundation doesn't have to restore I Wouldn't Be in Your Shoes. So there's another little tip off without actually answering directly that question, because I was sworn that I wouldn't do it. But it's good. And if you're a fan of Regis Toomey, you know, he's got a great part in I Wouldn't Be in Your Shoes as well. And Elise Knox, who is pretty cool. I like Elise Knox as an actress. So she's in that as well. So
all right. We'll leave it there.
Thing. We'll leave it there.
This is from Jeff. Hi, Ann and Eddie. How would you review the BFI film series book on gun crazy? Should I buy it? Yours truly.
I would not buy it until you buy my book on gun crazy. I have to state that. So if you haven't bought Gun Crazy, The Origins of Outlaw Cinema, buy my book first. And
Blackpool
then
Productions.
Blackpool Productions, you just go right to the Blackpool Productions website and you can order that book. But Jim Kitsis wrote the Gun Crazy book for BFI. He's a good guy. He's a film professor out at San Francisco State University. He wrote a terrific book a ways back called Horizons West that was a study of the Western, American Western, that was terrific. That was one of like the first 5 or 6 film books I ever bought was Horizons West. I love that book. Yeah, and his Gun Crazy book is good, but it's the difference between our books is his is really largely about the film, like analyzing and talking about the film. And my book is more about the history of the film. So it gets into McKinley Cantor and his original story, and it gets into the King brothers and how they bought it and why they bought it. You know, it's what I do. You know, I do a lot of research to analyze like why this film at this time in a very practical sense, rather than analyzing, so what was the impact that the film had and what is the film trying to say. I don't theorize about what films are trying to say because I research to find out what the intentions were of the writers and the filmmakers and all these people. So, but they're good companion pieces. So I would recommend Jim's book, definitely.
This is from John Baker. I have a question about Michael Curtiz's The Unsuspected. There are 2 noticeable edits in the film, both during scenes in the radio studio at the beginning and end of the film. The announcer introduces the program sponsor and then cuts to, and here's your genial host. I have long suspected that the title of the program was itself The Unsuspected, and I have been curious as to why that would have been cut. My question is, what was cut and why?
Okay, that's a complex question. I'm gathering. Okay, I understand what he's saying about this. I wasn't aware that that's what actually happened in the film, but I would assume that the episode. I think the episode of the program is called The Unsuspected, but I think they cut away from the title because they wanted to use it dramatically towards the end of the film when he is on the air talking, or it's the recording of him
right
on the air talking, and they're withholding the title because they want to reveal it at a more dramatic moment, because he definitely does say it.
Yeah.
It's just not given as the title of the show. And I assume they did that because it had less impact if you've already heard it.
Right.
So they save the reveal for the moment in the film when it really has impact. So yeah. I'm pretty sure that's why they did that. And I see what he's saying. He's just very aware that there's a cut where obviously it should have said, you know, presented by whatever the sponsor is. Tonight's episode is The Unsuspected with your host, whatever his name is, Victor Grandison or whatever. I forget the character's name. But I think they just cut it and said more impact if we put it later.
Yeah, because his next question was, is there a more complete version?
No, I'm sure there isn't.
All right. This is from Terrence. Okay, well, he actually has several questions. So why doesn't A Place in the Sun ever get discussed as film noir? We've screened it.
We have, indeed we have. I have no hesitation. See, unlike the little foxes and the sea wolf, I'm going to tell you that I have no hesitation calling A Place in the Sun a film noir. It's almost textbook film noir in a way. But it clearly doesn't get discussed because it's based on a major literary work. Theodore Dreiser's novel is a major work of American literary fiction, not genre fiction. And because of that, it's treated like an A picture. And it's not ghettoized like so much of noir was. But plot-wise, you can't tell me that you haven't. I mean, this is why he's asking this question, is because the plot seems so similar to, you know, a James M. Cain story or something. I mean, and it really is. So that's the double standard that applied critically to a lot of these movies.
What is the difference between a programmer and a B picture?
I almost use them interchangeably. There really isn't that much of a difference. I mean, you know, a B picture is a B picture because it was made by a B unit at the studio and it has a running time, a shorter running time that makes it the second feature on a double bill. That's why it's a B picture as opposed to an A picture. More money was spent on the A's, less money on the B's. B pictures tended to be genre pictures, adventure stories, westerns, crime stories. That's kind of it.
The Asphalt Jungle seems to have a lower budget than John Huston's Warner Brother movies. Was it considered an A or a B?
Oh, the Asphalt Jungle was definitely an A picture. But at MGM, where it got made, it had B status because Louis B. Mayer did not like those kinds of movies. Dory Sherry did like those kinds of movies. He was now the production chief at MGM. But there's no question that the Asphalt Jungle was an A picture. It's an ensemble piece. There's no big stars, but you know, Sterling Hayden was a star. I mean, there's no question about that. And but then after that, it's all character bits. So there wouldn't be a star necessarily, you know, because they're smaller roles. You know, Louis Calhern was a major star in the 1930s, but this was, you know, this is like Mary Astor appearing in Act of Violence.
Yeah.
You know, Louis Calhern made a lot of great movies in the 50s. You know, he's in Julius Caesar and all, you know, all kinds of stuff. So it wasn't like his career was over. But you know, he's a character actor.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's that.
Why in tarnation was Bosley Crowther so hostile towards crime movies? Wasn't he hostile to all movies?
Pretty much. But I think it's fascinating that the major metropolitan papers at that time really invested all of their intellectual energy in books and theater and music and opera
Yeah.
And movies were considered low class entertainment, for the plebes. And nobody exemplified that like Bosley Crowther, who nothing pleased him. And even when he wrote a good review, he deigned to write a good review, like surprise of surprises, a movie arrived this week at,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, and I love that when they say shit like, Mr. Garfield acquits himself well in the role. And it's like, was he charged with something? I mean, I don't understand. Like, acting in the movie is a crime. So that stuff. I hate myself when I like look up his reviews. Generally, I'm going to admit something. If you hear me quoting a Bosley Crowther review on TCM or something, it means I was stuck. It means I was stuck for like an additional 30 seconds of airtime. And it's like, let's see what Bosley Crowther has to say about it. Oh, good old reliable Bosley. Look at the stupid crap he says about this movie. I remember I went on and his review of Kansas City Confidential is so hysterically funny because he's so offended by it. The sadism and the gore and it's like, Jesus, give it up, man. Come on. Anyway.
Okay. This is from Robbie. I'd like to know more about your awesome tiki bar, particularly anything you're willing to share about its construction. Really, just tell us anything you're comfortable with.
Okay. Ann, I saw you looking at the clock.
Yes, like, I'm sorry. Can you tell?
Oh, God, we're going to run late again. Okay, I'll be quick. But I know it's interesting that people have now seen into my inner sanctum. This is my office where we're sitting right now. And, it's off season, so I'm not shooting any stuff in the Tiki Lounge because it's kind of cold outside right now. But yeah, the Tiki Lounge, quick backstory on the lounge. It began its life in Los Angeles. It was in the home, a home off of Sunset Boulevard on Courtney Terrace that I was told was Betty Davis's first house that she owned in Hollywood. She didn't have the Tiki Bar. The Tiki Bar was built by my friend Ron Rinaldi, who's a photographer, a New York photographer, and he moved to LA to expand his business, to go bi-coastal. And he had a vision of this Tiki Bar in his on his patio. And this is way back in the early part of the century. And I would hang out with Ron and stay at the house there when I was doing the Noir City festivals in LA, before they were even called Noir City. And we had many a great night in the lounge, which was outdoors. And then the house got sold out from under Ron. He was renting, and I couldn't let the Tiki Lounge go because the people buying the house had a bunch of kids. And I knew that they were going to get rid of the lounge. So I bought it from Ron. I paid him what he paid for it to build it and everything. And I dismantled it all and put it in a U-Haul truck and drove it up here to my house. And I rebuilt it. I have a standalone 1912 garage that doesn't house any modern car. So I said, let's do something really useful with this and build a cocktail lounge out of my garage. So I cut a big hole in the side so that there's a window that looks out into my backyard. I put in plumbing, I put in electricity, and I rebuilt the Tiki Lounge in my garage. That is the story. It is. I've written a novel. I've created the Film Noir Foundation. I'm a host on TCM, but the Tiki Lounge is the greatest thing I ever did.
It really is. I'll just second that. To keep it noir, I'm also curious if you see a connection between noir and the Tiki movement.
Not really, except that they kind of happened at the same time. right? I mean, it was a post-World War II movement. So they happen at the same time. However, I can't possibly, there's more of a connection between them today than there was back then. Because I know for a fact, because I kind of straddle these worlds, that a lot of people that are into the tiki culture are also big into film noir,
Yeah.
and vice versa. But they couldn't possibly represent two more different poles of existence. You know, the tiki thing was just all about what, don't worry about it. You know, that was the whole thing. It's like, yeah, okay, they may blow up everything in the South Pacific, but I'm taking R&R, and I'm going to have some cocktails and hang out and enjoy myself. I mean, that's the tiki ethos, which is slightly different than the noir ethos, but they're both from the same point, you know, mid-century point in American history. And if you're into that period, I totally get why there's overlap between the two. And if you want tiki and noir, you watch Where Danger Lives, which recreates the old Trader Vic's in Oakland in the movie. So Mitchum goes to this big tiki lounge, you know, and there's an early example of a tiki lounge in Mildred Pierce, where Ann Blythe is working in Mildred Pierce. That's kind of a tiki thing too. So
Yeah, and there's a tiki lounge also in The Bigamist.
mm-hmm. Good call, Ann. Excellent. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. I would toast back, but it's unlucky with water. This is from Gordon Kitt. Without World War II, would the femme fatales have emerged? Women in the workplace during the war created a sense of independence. And anyway, I won't go on the whole thing. Without World War II, would women have changed, or would they have continued a second-class role?
I'm not exactly sure, but I will say this. I know that that's a reading of that character in noir that has become very, very popular, because it's been repeated many, many times in scholarly works, that I don't particularly subscribe to, because I think the character of the femme fatale is throughout time. She has always existed, always. And I just think that her appearance in noir, when you see as much of it as we have, Anne, you know that the femme fatale character is only in a certain percentage of film noir.
Yeah.
Right. I actually believe that more common to the genre is the character of the sensible working woman, that in some ways is a more revelatory and subversive depiction of women at that time than the femme fatale, who has existed from time immemorial. I mean, the idea of woman as the harbinger of evil, and she's, Circe and all this stuff, and she's guarding the gates of hell, and what, that's just a thing. That's a male myth thing forever and ever. But in noir, you really see working women, self-reliant, self-possessed working women, much more in film noir than you see them in other movies of the period. I'm thinking about Ella Raines, Audrey Totter in The Lady in the Lake, a bunch of characters that Ida Lupino played, Stanwyck, Joan Crawford, Mona Freeman and Angel Face. Whereas,
which is one of my all-time favorite female characters in noir. I love her.
Yeah. See, because that movie, I always cite that movie because it gives you the perfect examples of those two characters. And it's more complex than like Madonna whore dichotomy and all this. It's like, no, this is a very sensible, self-possessed woman who's the only character in the movie with a head on her shoulders.
Yeah.
And then Gene Simmons is this freak, is this complete freak who is kind of sexy. And Mitchum's a stooge. I mean, he makes absolutely the wrong decision in that movie and pays the price for it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that movie couldn't be more geometric in the way it is presenting these ideas.
Well, and also the thing I love about that movie is that he tries to go back to her and she's like, no, I'm not dealing with you. It's awesome.
That scene, is that not a great scene? There are two, what I love about that movie is that there are so many great noirish, creepy scenes in that film with the great Dmitri Tiomkin score, and Gene Simmons is fabulous in that film, even though she detested making it. But the two scenes in that movie that are standouts for me are the scene where Gene Simmons and Mona Freeman actually meet and have the conversation, which is just the two women talking about the guy and what their motivations are. Love that scene. And the scene you cited when Mitchum goes back and she's there with Don Barry, you know, and it's like, no, too late, stooge, you blew it. You know, because she has so much self-respect that she, you know, it's like, yeah, you're hot, but tough.
Yeah, and he's even his friend, which makes it even better. And it's
exactly, and it's that's what I mean. That scene is so great because he's like, well, you know, sorry, pal, but you know, you kind of blew it, you know.
Yeah. Oh God. What's the name of the actor?
Kenneth Tobey. That's the actor. Yeah, I had it wrong. It's not Don Barry. Why did I think it was Don Barry? It's Kenneth Tobey. Yeah.
Okay. This is from Arthur. Prompted by Eddie's comments about his reaction when he first saw Who Killed Teddy Bear, are there any films that Eddie or Anne or Eddie find it difficult or impossible to watch again, not because of the quality, but because of the subject matter or theme? Mine are Peeping Tom and I'll Never Forget What's His Name.
Interesting. Do you have any off the top of your head that you know of that, like, I can't watch that again?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay. Which
is not gory, but the end sequence of that is the most harrowing thing I have ever seen in a horror film, because it's psychologically, they're just psychologically torturing this woman and to the point of madness. And like I said, it's amazing because that film was not gory, but it's probably one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen.
I've seen it a few times, so I can't say that that's on the list. And I do want to call out Marilyn Burns as the greatest screamer in the history of motion pictures. I mean, her performance in that movie is unbelievable. I mean, how many movies have we seen since the Texas Chainsaw Massacre where you're not really believing that there's any kind of real terrifying threat to these model perfect teenagers that are about to get slaughtered? It's just like horror porn.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like they look great and everything, and it's like, oh no, he's got a knife. You know, it's like Marilyn Burns, she sells that like, holy shit. Yeah, she's amazing. And anyway, mine is every film made by Gaspar Noé. Every film made by Gaspar Noé. I've seen them all, and I have never watched any of them again, right? And I can't say that I disliked any of them. It's just, I don't think I can put myself through that again, right? So I stand alone. Irreversible, which is probably the most difficult movie to watch that I've ever seen. Enter the Void, Climax, all these movies are extraordinary to me because he goes there.
Yeah, I mean, I've had no desire to watch those films whatsoever, none. And just which is why I haven't watched any of them, and I'll never watch the next
Last House on the Left.
for the same reason. I don't want to watch it. I won't watch I Spit on Your Grave either. There's
Yeah.
just stuff.
I get that. I get that totally. And you know, I don't understand people who say, no, you don't get it. You should watch it. It's like, I'm sorry, people are allowed to have their limits.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, if you don't want to watch it, you don't want to watch it, you know. Yeah. I mean, I'm very, very intrigued by Gaspar Noé's movies because he is such an extraordinary filmmaker. I mean, his grasp of the language is so incredible. And the stuff he does, it's so imaginative, but I don't want to live through it again. I just don't want to live through it again. Irreversible was one of the most powerful movies I've ever seen. And if you can get through the first 10 minutes, it's going to hook you. And then it gets to the scene in the subway. And it's like, oh, fuck. It is really hard going. And I just kept telling myself, you know, Monica Bellucci is alive. Monica Bellucci is alive. I just had to keep saying that over and over again in my head when I was watching this scene unfold. Anyway, so it's a really interesting question because it kind of cuts to the heart of like, why do you watch movies? Right. And I have to confess, part of me watches films because I want you to take me somewhere where I don't go. I'm never going to go there ever. You know, but then we all have, you know, and Gaspar Noé, because his artistry makes it tolerable for me. But if I saw the same thing by somebody who didn't have that artistry, I would turn it off instantly.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel about Dario Argento, because I'm not really, I normally really don't like things that violent. So, but I really like his stuff. And then also, you know, Pedro Almodovar has put some things in his films I simply would not have sat through by another filmmaker. You know, but I think he's a genius, and it serves a story. So there's that too. But there's definitely things like, if I'd seen that in other people's films, I would have shut it off probably.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, let's go, because we're running really long again, and I want to get to all the questions. But these are some really good questions that are like inspiring me to give big answers.
I know they're good questions, which makes it difficult. You often hear that many actors who play bad guys were in real life kind, good family men, sweethearts to work with. Are there any bad guys on screen who were bad guys in real life? I heard that Steve Cochran would qualify. Were there others?
I don't think you're going to get everybody to unanimously agree that Steve Cochran, depends on how you define bad. There are some women who would not define Steve Cochran as bad. But this, I mean, it's Lawrence Tierney.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, Lawrence Tierney was a badass all the way. I mean, I will defend him because I met him and I kind of knew him briefly. So it's not like there was nothing redeeming about the guy at all. I mean, he's a good actor, and he, you know, but he was a bad person. He was a bad person. You didn't gain a lot having Lawrence Tierney as your pal, you know, at least later on. But I mean, that's the one. I honestly can't think of anybody else that I would say was just like bad, you know. So I'm just going to stand on Lawrence Tierney. I'm going to give, you know, Steve Cochran today would not get a pass at all. Yeah. At all. But he also wasn't like a barroom brawler, and, you know, he didn't have a long police record. You know, he didn't do everything on the up and up in terms of his personal interactions with women. Let's just put it that way.
We'll put it that way. Aaron St. John and Kathy Springs ask, why is the Scotty character in Vertigo given a pass as being just troubled or visiting the dark side, as if he's one of Stuart's Anthony Mann Western's characters, when he's clearly a self-serving misogynist from beginning to end? Is it the James Stewart effect, or giving Hitchcock a pass for the sake of his artistry, or what do you think? I thought he was a misogynist bastard. I hate his character, and I really don't like Vertigo.
And you say you don't like Vertigo?
No, I mean, I've seen it. Well, for one thing, like every friggin' film class plays it, so I've seen it a lot. But no, I mean, because I just can't stand how misogynistic he is, and what a terrible person he is. I don't enjoy it. It's beautiful, and I love the San Francisco location. Love the San Francisco locations. It's a gorgeous film, but I don't want to watch it.
See, well, there. So that's interesting, because this question, God, it's almost like this was planned. This question, like, dovetails with the two previous questions, right? Like, what's a film that you watch and you don't really want to watch again? And then the whole thing about, like, what I just said about Steve Cochran and all that stuff, it kind of applies to the Scotty character in Vertigo. I'm not going to dwell on this one. I don't mean to give short shrift to the answer, because I think this is a really important question, and it kind of cuts to the essence of, what do people want when they watch a movie? Do they want to identify with the protagonist, or are they just watching a story unfold in which, lo and behold, the protagonist turns out not to be the hero?
Yeah.
He turns out not only not to be the hero, he's kind of the villain.
Oh, yeah.
In a way, you know? I mean, yes, Gavin Elster is the real villain, but Scotty is the instrument, you know, and he's, and I just have to say, so my revised edition of Dark City, which will be, you know, coming out in a few months, I didn't really talk about Vertigo very much in the first edition of the book, but I do talk about it in the new edition for this very reason, because I point this out. I say, you know, given the time in which these movies were made, and the fact that Alfred Hitchcock wanted to make a film, and in most cases, Alfred Hitchcock is going to make a film with a male protagonist. He has some great female characters in his movies, like Teresa Wright in Shadow of a Doubt, but sometimes his great female characters don't live very long.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like Janet Leigh in Psycho. And so the man is going to be you know, it's his, quote unquote, his story. But if you watch Vertigo as Judy's story,
yeah, it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. It's it's so freaking noir.
I mean, that's who I
think of it from her point of view. Like, she can't win.
No,
she's this beautiful young woman who gets screwed every which way by these evil men, and the men don't know they're evil. You know, it's like, wow.
No, I mean, she's the character, and Midge are the characters I identify with. When I watch that film, I'm not identifying with Jimmy Stewart. I'm identifying with the women in that film. And just that scene when she's like, he's in her room and he wants her to change her hair, and she's so upset. You know, he's so erasing her as a person, and she doesn't know even how to react to it. It's just, and I thought that Novak did that scene incredibly well, because you could just feel her heartbreaking. It was just, she was great in that. That's a great performance.
She's incredible in that movie. And I forget, we said this last time, you weren't there at the Castro when I did the Vertigo screening with Kim. And I said, you know, you're now kind of getting your due for this being a great performance. And she and we've talked about this, Kim and I talked about this quite a bit, because I've been fortunate to spend a fair amount of time with Kim. And she says, Eddie, that's me. That's me. I never played a character that was more me than in Vertigo. And that's why she's such a defender of the film. And when people started complaining about Hitchcock, and she defended Hitchcock against Tippi Hedren and all that stuff, it was all because Hitchcock gave her the chance to tell her story.
Yeah.
And she says, I know exactly what that woman is going through. Men trying to make you over into the image that they want. She said, honey, that's the story of my life.
Yeah, and it's the story of Hollywood. I mean, it's incredibly reflective of Hollywood.
Yeah.
In the way
and also
that system.
And also what we were talking about earlier, Midge is another one of those women in these stories that nobody writes about Midge.
Yeah.
But again, Midge is like the Mona Freeman character in Angel Face. Like, Scotty, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
From the very beginning of the movie, it's like, there she is. This is the woman who's going to, I don't want to say save you, but why are you torturing yourself? Here she is. I mean, she's talented, smart, self-reliant, cute as could be. It's like, are you nuts? But it's all there in the movie. It's not like Hitchcock isn't aware of it. He's putting all of that in the film. But has anybody really looked at it that way? I mean, it's taken decades.
And it's also, and that is what makes it so frustrating for me, is that it's not the film itself. I mean, I don't really want to watch it again because it's depressing as hell, and I've seen it too many times. But it's more the way that it's interpreted is extremely galling. The way it has been, looked at critically, and this is sort of the thing about, film criticism to a large extent is really a boys' club, and as someone who's been really into the film since the 80s, it's a boys' club, and I think for me, one of the exciting things about so much online writing is women are writing about film that aren't just, academics, but there's much more film writing now by women. And I think that gets these films re-examined because you're seeing it from a different perspective. And it's very exciting to me to just see all these young women who are writing about they're young compared to me, writing about classic film is really exciting for me because, it's seeing that shift in the conversation. Because, I mean, most of the stuff that I have read about Vertigo, they're very empathetic towards Scotty's character, which, drives me nuts, obviously.
Yes, that the movie is the tragedy, Scotty's tragedy. It's like, dude, you're fucked up. I mean, it's not your tragedy, it's her tragedy. Yeah. But I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, Anne, about how great it is to see women writing about film much more. And I do want to just give a shout out to our own publication. Yeah. The Noir City magazine, because it's like a two-pronged thing. I really, several years ago, I really started to see all this tremendous writing by these young women. And then it dawned on me, like, there's way too many guys writing about this stuff. And it's very true of noir itself. I mean, I've been doing this long enough that I remember in the early days, people writing about it as though noir was addressing the male condition. Mm-hmm. That's like what these movies were about. It was about men and the men's emasculation by women because, they took jobs in the workplace and all this shit. And it's like, actually, you're ignoring all of these other movies that were made at the time that starred women. You're just ignoring them. all the Stanwyck movies, all the Joan Crawford movies. You're ignoring all the characters that Ella Raines played. You're ignoring Ida Lupino. You're ignoring Joan Harrison movies. You know, and it just became this avalanche of guys pitying themselves. And I'm sorry, there's a lot more to it than that. And I'm so happy that there are all these women now that are writing about noir, and that the Noir City magazine is a forum now for a lot of these tremendous writers, you know. So I'm very happy about that, because those scales have to be balanced.
Yeah, and just a quick side note, since Ella Raines has come up a couple times tonight. So we have a back issue available that we call it our Women in Noir issue. And there's an article on Ella Raines and her working class heroines in noir. Was that Imogen?
That was Imogen.
It was Imogen who wrote that. And, you know, and it's a great piece. So if you're I just thought I'd throw that out there just because we've mentioned Ella Raines and as a working girl like 2 or 3 times during the conversation tonight. So anyway, and you can go to our website and get directed to it, or it's noircitymag.com is the direct site for getting back issues.
Yeah,
because that's a good issue, and there's a lot of good women writing and a lot of writing about women writers as well in that issue.
Yes,
like that. Okay, Eddie. So we have a ton of questions left. I know there's like no way that we're getting through these because we're already really. I think we're gonna.
Are we going to do another one?
I think we have.
Okay. All right. But I have to say, I thought this was one of our best installments.
No, me too.
The questions were really, really provocative.
Yeah.
And really good. And so, okay, we'll do another one. And maybe we can add, I mean, how many more questions are there on this list? What do you
let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we've got like
that's dead air, Ann. That's not good. That's not good for television. It's dead air.
We've got like 12 more.
Okay, 12 more. Okay. Yeah. So here's what we'll do. We'll do a shorter installment, and we'll add in some of the questions that like just came in.
Okay, that sounds good.
And then I don't feel so bad because we'll address the it's official. Charlotte just showed her rear end on camera. So hi, Charlotte, how are you?
Yeah, she wants to know why I'm not getting into bed yet.
Look at her, just posing the sentinel. That's brilliant. Look, and the little tail whipping around in front. That's very good. Oh man, that's great. She's a handsome cat.
She is.
Is that's not going to bother her that I called her handsome, is it?
No. She'll hate you either way. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so let's do this again soon, and I hope people stuck with this one the whole way, because I thought I really had a good time talking about this stuff. I really appreciate your takes on much of this stuff. It's very valuable. And I want to just reiterate about the Jay and Connie offer to match donations up to $1,000. If we total $1,000, they will. Which, you know, I'm going to say, like, I'm not sure I understand the matching donation concept, because it's like, if you get $1,000 in donations, we'll match it. And then I think, well, like, what if we get $878 in donations? Are you not going to give us the $1,000 to put us over? Like, I mean, like, sorry, you only got $878. So too bad. We're giving it to cancer research instead. It's like, okay, that I can go with, right? But I'm not always sure. I get it. I get it. The matching thing. I get it. Time-honored tradition for nonprofits. And it is truly appreciated from Jay and Connie.
So we will let people know when the next segment after this one is going to play. I'm guessing it's probably going to be next Thursday. So
okay. We'll report, and we can report back then as to how many donations we've gotten in the interim. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we'll try and push you guys up all the way.
Okay, very, very good. Hey, Ann, this was a lot of fun. As we've told people, this isn't live, so we are recording this on a day when all manner of hell is breaking loose.
Yes.
Everywhere. And I went in the other room like 4 hours ago and I turned on TCM, and it's just like, I'm not going to turn on the news. I'm just going to play TCM all day. Dark of the Sun was playing, and it's like insane, but there you go. Okay, this is enough. An hour and 37 minutes is more than enough.
More than enough. And hopefully we brought you some happiness tonight. I hope.
I hope so. I love it when people tell us how much they enjoy. When I get checks and things actually mailed in, it's really lovely when people say, I really enjoy the Ask Eddie and Ann segments, because look at Charlotte. It's just amazing. Okay, I'm telling you right now, if you people donate, we will buy cat food and kitty litter for Charlotte for a year. With a big donation, you can designate your donation is in Charlotte's honor.
There you go.
Because she is being so awesome right now, the way she's sitting there. I wish my cat could do that. There is no way possible. And I'll tell you what, here's the deal. If somebody donates $200, I'll force my cat to come in here and sit on my lap for like 5 minutes of this stuff, because it is not easy to get her to behave. So, but I'll make it happen. All right, that's enough.
All right, that's enough.
That's enough. Okay. All right, we'll see everybody again very soon. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are the greatest.
Yeah, thank you for staying so long.